Hello, it's Lora Cheadle, author of the book FLAUNT. Drop your cover and reveal your smart, sexy, and spiritual self. And because of the coronavirus, I am no longer able to go on book tour. So what I am doing is I am bringing you virtual book tour. Yay! What we're going to talk about today is trusting in our truth when the whole world around us is completely uncertain. I want to talk about how it feels when everything that you have known to be true is suddenly not true. FLAUNT, for those of you who don't know, is an acronym, and it stands for Find Your Fetish, Laugh Out Loud, Accept Unconditionally, Navigate the Negative, and Trust in Your Truth. And on the surface, it's really glittery and fun because I use the concept of burlesque and stripping down and getting naked to reveal what is authentically there underneath. And it is fun and it is glittery. But the reason that I make it fun and make it glittery is because it's pretty deep and it's pretty difficult. It's a difficult process to take off all of our masks, to strip out of our labels, our rules, and our scripts, and to reveal ourselves authentically as we are without cover, because it really sets us up to be very vulnerable. It sets us up for rejection. It sets us up to be wrong. And it's a threatening place to be in the best of times. But especially now, we thought we could count on our jobs. We thought we could count on relationships. We thought we could count on our health and so many other things in our life. And suddenly those things have been stripped away and we're left with who we are. We're left with our truth. And that honestly is the only thing that we can rely on. And the people that I work with usually come to see me because they have a diagnosis, a death, a crisis, a divorce, empty nesting, a regret, a shame, a pain. There's something that precipitates their first visit to me. And the first words out of everybody's mouth usually is something along the lines of, I don't know who I am anymore. I thought I knew who I was, and suddenly I don't know who I am. And I want to validate that that is how most of us are feeling right now. So many of us used to be doctors, lawyers, accountants, clerks, cooks, whatever it was, and suddenly we're not. Everything that we counted on externally is no longer there and available for us to count on, and all we've got is ourselves. So I feel like globally, I need to be reaching out to everybody with this book, with this work, to help them move through these 4 steps to get to that 5th step, which is the ability to trust in your truth. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to read you one of the last chapters. It's step 5, trusting my truth. But before I get into that, I'm going to jump back to the beginning of the book to a section, and I'm not going to read the whole chapter, just this section. But the section is called Black, White, and Glitter, because that's kind of where we're living right now. Have you noticed that most of life is neither black nor white, but some scintillating shade of glitter that you can't quite name? One moment it looks gold, and then the light catches it and it's red, but then a silver fleck jumps into view. If you have ever listed out pros and cons to help you make decisions and then still not been able to decide, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Wouldn't life be easier if everything was just cut and dried? Look at how frequently news stories deal with elusive, shimmery shades of glitter. Did the officer shoot the suspect because he posed a viable danger and the officer feared for his life? Or did he act unreasonably based on a racial bias? Whoa. Is this something we can even answer with complete certainty? Probably not. And if you're anything like me, uncertainty can be excruciating. And here we are living in that place of uncertainty. So jumping ahead now to that step 5, trusting my truth. Think back to the living in the glitter exercise and how truth can be subjective. Not only is our external reality subjective, but our internal reality can be as well. Layer our self-doubt and confusion about who we are and what we like to do with everyone else's ideas about who we are and what we should do, and it's no wonder we have such a hard time choreographing our own lives. But here's the thing. We are the only ones who know what's going on inside us. We are the only ones who can ascertain with any certainty what is valid for ourselves. And the only way to do that is to cut down on the external noise, turn within, and trust that what we find is right for us, even if it's not what we expect. 6 months after my trip to Vegas, I was standing backstage at the House of Blues in New Orleans, looking at the walls, which were covered with the names of every performer who had ever performed there. Everywhere I looked, I reminded that I was walking the very same path that Johnny Cash had on his way to that very same stage. It humbled me, yet it also made me proud to know that I was one of the ones who said yes and who dared to trust my own truth. Now, it wasn't that I was famous by any stretch of the imagination. It was just that I dared to say yes to what was in my heart, and that stretch had brought me here. Granted, I sometimes still had to fight with myself, to remind myself that taking risks and making myself a priority was right, and it was my right, not a luxury. But I was learning to accept unconditionally that all I felt called to do was mine to do. My heart was open to whatever was in front of me, and it led me to this moment here in New Orleans, to the exact same stairwell where so many others who had taken risks had stood before me. My mind went back to the exodus from my corporate world, when my coworker told me that I was letting down working women everywhere by leaving the rat race and becoming a stay-at-home mom. If she could only see me now. I laughed at how horrified I imagined she would be at my recent determination to carry on the burlesque lineage instead of her version of the stereotypical working woman's lineage. Perhaps conforming to that stereotype was hers, but this was undeniably mine. Society said that a middle-aged mom, lawyer, and coach shouldn't do what I was doing, but I did it anyway. Not to rebel, not to create a fuss, but because it was my truth to do so, to dance my own dance with wild abandon. My actions were rooted in trusting my truth, and I would hopefully validate others who wanted to live their lives in that same way. No longer was I just mom or his wife. I was Lora, and no matter which roles I took on, from this point forward, I would play them only as Lora could play them. And what felt the best to me was knowing that I would never go back to being a supporting player in somebody else's drama. I was my own burlesque star. This was my life created by me, and I was going to live exactly as my soul wanted me to live. My light was turned on high, and I was not going to go back to living in the dark. Even though I wasn't sure what life was going to look like going forward, I knew that trusting my truth would get me wherever I needed to go. After all, could I have even planned or predicted that my midlife would include a foray into burlesque? But here I was, and it fit perfectly. The rest of my life was going to be up to me. I could no longer rely on others to rescue me or tell me what to do, and that was equal parts intimidating and thrilling. I mean, really, the idea of moving forward and choreographing my own life forevermore felt kind of overwhelming too. When could I relax? I mean, after all, I had already done it. I had broken free, right? I went from lawyer to burlesque star. Bam, I won. I did it. Now what? Part of me wanted to be given a roadmap for the rest of the journey, to have the rest of my life neatly laid out for me so I could once again plod mindlessly along, doing whatever I was supposed to do. But there was no roadmap for this journey. My journey was mine. It was of my own creation, and inside I knew that I was ready. Burlesque, with its focus on humor and female-dominated power, gave me explicit permission to live confidently and joyfully exactly as I was. Funny, but it was breaking the rules through a somewhat taboo art form that empowered me in ways I hadn't even known that I needed empowering. Seriously, though, if I were brave enough to get up on stage at my age with my body and take my clothes off in front of thousands of people, there wasn't anything I couldn't do. The thought of flashing the judge from my student law office days sprang briefly into mind and made me chuckle. Can you imagine how different my life might have been if I had known the power of choosing and validating myself sooner? Thinking back on my life, on all that I went through when I hid myself and dropped out of college, when I covered myself to succeed as a lawyer, when I suppressed myself as a wife and a mother, I saw that there were 5 different and distinct steps that I had taken every time I reclaimed myself. I found my fetishes. I allowed myself to have fun. I laughed out loud at myself and at life. I accepted who I was, what I liked, as well as everyone and everything around me unconditionally, without any kind of judgment. I navigated the negative. I never stopped. And I developed a can-do attitude, seeing challenges as puzzles to be solved instead of walls that would stop me. And above all, I trusted squarely in myself and my truth. My truth was abundantly clear, and I knew that I was now brave enough to trust in that truth. I was done with endless self-help programs, fruitless manifesting, and non-specific vision boards championing ideas I couldn't quite grasp and didn't really understand. It was time to release the idea of what I thought my life was supposed to look like and reveal myself for exactly who I was. Lora, a burlesque dancer and life choreographer. Life choreographer might not have been a real career option for others, but it sure was for me. This was my truth, and I couldn't wait to begin. That is the story of how I found my flaunt. And I just wanted to encourage you all now to be brave enough to take this time and this opportunity to find your flaunt, to move through those steps, to embrace whatever is coming at you, and to above all else, trust in exactly who you are and what you value. Thank you. If you want more, go to my website, loracheadle.com, LORACHEADLE.com, and download, it's called the Bundle of Joy gift pack. And I've got a downloadable self-hypnosis, a worksheet on increasing your intuition, and of course, how to do a lap dance burlesque video. Take care. Bye-bye.